talk about music and how it affects us. Different types, like mainstream music versus instrumental or classical style music. I read online that this rap song samples sounds of a murder cult in their song in the background. Kind of made me more curious about what is being put in music subliminally and people don't realize.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I feel like when people ask this, they want like a very specific answer, and I can't necessarily give you one because it's not like, oh, this entire genre is dark and this entire genre is light. It's not like that, but I think that's why it's so important to cultivate your own intuitive gifts and your own sense of feeling. And this is the thing, we all have this. We all have intuitive abilities, and that sense of feeling, I find specifically with music, is just always going to lead you in the right direction. And when we talk about, I forget how they worded it, but you know, are things good or bad or light? It's not that dualistic. It's not that simple. And I think it will come up in other questions people ask too. Even when we're talking about coffee, I'm like, I can give you like a general, this is how I feel for a lot of people, but it's all about how your energy body interacts with that specific thing at that specific time. So I think rap is a great example. I mean, I love rap music, and I think how much I love it has certainly changed a bit, like as I've gotten older. But I think a lot of that has to do with like with rap, like there are embedded in there in certain songs, you know, dark shit. And there's also other rap artists and songs that don't have that and are super high vibe. And there are also songs like there are a lot of mainstream songs where I'll be like, oh my god, this is so dark, but sometimes I'll be intuitively drawn to it because there's something else within the beat that like my frequency body needs. And so I think that that's where just knowing things, I mean, okay, I'll say, I don't know that I really want to call out anybody specifically, but you know, there's like one mainstream artist that is like not of the light, and most of this person's music is just dark. And there's just one song I'm like, wow, this beat is so good, right? And I'm like, sometimes I will listen to it and I'll be like, I'll shudder and I'll be like, turn this off. And other times I'm like, oh, this is like a jam, and I basically will just be like, cancel out lyrics. And I just like cancel out lyrics because sometimes it's the lyrics that are dark, sometimes it's the frequencies embedded in the music, sometimes it's both, sometimes there's just energies behind it. And so it's a really complicated thing, right? Like making a piece of art like music, it's complex. There's a lot that goes into it. And I think a lot of things, like, it's not all bad, not all good, like it's a certain vibration, and I think sometimes that vibration serves you and sometimes it doesn't. And then I think there are things that are generally just like super low vibe and helpful not to listen to. But I also think, you know, like I've certainly been out or I'm in an Uber or something and something plays and I'm like, ugh, and I will just be like, I'm just clear the energy around it. Like it is what it is. So yeah, I think different types of music are better for us and others are worse. I think a lot of people struggle with, well, I know a lot of people struggle with depression and anxiety, poor body image, negative self-talk, like these really dark, depressive thoughts because of mainstream media. And so for a lot of people, it's from music and or what they're watching on television. I mean, you look at the things that are getting put out nowadays, movie culture is completely different than what it used to be. But with music, a lot of what's in mainstream now more than ever before is dark. It is. It doesn't mean everything is. And I also don't say that of like, oh, you're a bad person if you listen to mainstream music. I still listen to mainstream music, but I'm also aware of the frequency of things and how it makes me feel. And I'm also like conscious of lyrics. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a nuanced conversation, but I think there's certainly layers to it. And I mean, I think about, you know, I'd gone to a concert of a DJ who I feel like is pretty, like, I like love their stuff and it's pretty light. And at the concert, in the symbolism of the concert, that's where a lot of it comes up also. It's like what they were throwing up on the screen was super dark, like super dark. And so there's just like a lot of layers to this. And I think some of it, I think some artists know what's going on. I think most don't. I think that a lot don't. I think, you know, when you're like a main person in pop culture, you know what you're doing. But I think a lot of people who aren't that big don't necessarily know all the energetics of the frequencies they're playing and even the symbols. Like people, I mean, regular people all the time, they don't like know that symbol is dark. And so that's why you have to just notice when something feels off to you or feels weird and listen to that, you know. But I would say like it's really helpful to first calibrate to a high frequency within yourself and feeling good, and then you notice when you listen to music how it makes you feel. Like, did that make you feel sad? Did that make you feel contracted? Did that make you feel just kind of weird and wonky? Did you notice that you started to have interesting thoughts the next couple of days? And most people don't look at that so one-to-one. It's kind of like a food and mood journal, but with music. But when you start to pay attention to that, you will realize the frequencies that feel good for you and the ones that don't, which also can change over time, you know. So I think when we're talking about music, there are songs and frequencies that are lower vibration and have dark stuff embedded in us, and there's programming in there for sure. I mean, mainstream music is a main way that we get programmed. But then in the realm of like higher frequency music, I would say, I mean, there's so much to work with there. And even within high frequency music, not all of it's going to resonate with you. That doesn't mean it's bad, right? That's why we all like different genres. And it's not like, oh, that one's bad and that one's good. It's not that black or white. It's just, is this resonating for me? Is this not? It's kind of like, oh, my favorite color is pink and I hate the color orange. That doesn't mean that orange is a bad color. It's just like, that's just what I like. And so I think that's also recognizing in the realm of music, because I will hear people say things, oh, that's dark. And I'm like, it's not, you just don't like it, you know? So, and that's fine. You can not like it. It can feel low frequency for you because it's just it's not resonant with you. That doesn't mean it's overall dark. But I also think, you know, I mean, music is an expression of frequency on so many different levels and so many different layers, whether it's if there are lyrics, the sound frequencies, the energetic transmission that comes into it, what's been created, like the entire process of creating it. There's so many different layers to that. And I think that, I mean, the way resonance works is if that vibration is existing with it in us and has enough of a pull, I'll say, it'll activate. And so I think about music that has really resonated with me and has helped heal me in a lot of ways, but also keeps me in that lower vibration. Like when I'm in sad girl era, you know, and I'm like, there are things that I'm like, wow, like these lyrics speak to me, or the sound of this is speaking to me, and it's speaking to my sadness, and it's speaking to my anger or my pain. And I think there can be a healing in that when it helps us tap into the feeling to help us release the emotion. But I know when I keep listening to that, I stay in that. I stay in a drama cycle. I'm sadder overall. Like I'm seeing the world through a different lens. And so I do think it affects people a lot more than they realize. I know for me, it's a main lever I pull, and the more psychic I become, I have to be really conscious of what I'm listening to because of what it's tapping into like within me, you know? So, yeah, I think that it's music is something that people are really attached to, and they don't always want to hear like the truth around it, I guess. But there are some things that are just straight up like very low vibrational and very low, what I would human judgment say like bad programming. And there's also a lot of stuff that's like great for some people, doesn't really resonate with other people. That doesn't make it bad, but there are layers to it. And I think most things, it's not so black or white. I think there can be like high vibrations embedded in with lower vibrations, and some of that's intentional, not all of it is. So I would just say I think it's a helpful practice to like really pay attention to how you feel before and after, and start to put it together for yourself, what music resonates for you and what music doesn't.
I love all of that.
Yeah.
I think that it is such a nuanced conversation, and people don't treat it like that. I mean, I myself have not treated it like that in moments, you know, like there was one DJ that I kind of always had this intuitive feeling just about him as a person, that he was dark. Like you and I are the same. Like when you see someone's eyes, you're just like, there's but I was at a concert of his, and like everything was fine, and then there was a certain song that the frequency completely shifted, and I was like, I need to protect myself right now. And after that experience, I went into the other side. I was just like, I can never listen to him again. Like, and not even judging people that listen to him, but almost kind of like that. And then I was looking at collabs that he did with other DJs, and I was like, oh my God, are they dark too? Like, do they know, you know? And it's like, it's not that deep. Like, because also, I don't know, maybe he doesn't know that those things are dark. Maybe he's just a vessel for that frequency, but like you said, like it doesn't really matter. It just matters, like you said, that I don't feel like it's a resonant frequency for me. And if anyone's listening like, oh fuck, there's this artist that I'm not going to be able to listen to anymore because they're dark, I promise you'll find, so like that's the beauty of music to me too. It's like you move away from things and then there's this whole crazy abundant, like there's always more music to discover. There's always more artists to discover, and it's a beautiful part of like self-expression in that way too. So just get excited about all of the other people that you'll discover by leaving other ones behind too, you know.
For sure.
And like you said, it's not so dualistic. It's just tuning into what you need.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of music that for a long time it felt so dark to me, or it felt so I was like, I hate that. It does not make me feel good. And I got older and it's like my favorite music now. Yeah. It's like so interesting. And then vice versa. You know, a lot of music that made me feel so good and now I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that was about. And so we just change and our resonance changes. And also, I mean, I don't like the whole, like, I think people get really, it's, is that person dark? Is that person light? And it's like, some of it, yeah. Like, some of it, I mean, I get, but I think when we're obsessed with that, I don't know that's helpful. Yeah. I just don't know that it's helpful. I think it's more of like, hey, do I want to listen to this song or not? Does it make me feel good or not? Yeah. Like, and I don't know that we need to get into a whole story about people, especially, it's like, we don't even know these people. And I don't think it's helpful. It's like, hey, if you're noticing that every single song that someone releases, you're feeling a really heavy dark energy around, then like that's probably, you know, not the artist for you. But there might be some, like, I don't know, I just don't think it's so, like, everybody wants to categorize people, everybody wants to make a judgment, everybody wants to put a label on things, and we got to get out of that. So I would say practice that feeling piece and honor that feeling piece might change, and notice how you feel after you listen to certain things. And if you're feeling more uplifted, more expanded, in a positive headspace, that's probably helpful for you. And if not, then probably not. And I know for me, like, I remember I went through this phase, it was like a year ago, where I was just, my brain was overloaded and I didn't want to listen to any podcasts. I didn't want to be taking calls. And so I was like, I just want to listen to music. And I would just go back and play my old, like, banger playlists that I've been building up since I was like 17. And these are all like just some of my favorite like jams. And I felt good while I was doing it. I was like, I love my morning walk. I'm just listening to these old songs, just kind of vibing. And after a couple months, I realized, I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of just like depressed. Like, I just feel like depressed. I'm not depressed, but my mood is low and I'm just kind of negative and nothing had changed. And then I remember popped in. I was like, what am I listening to in the morning? And I was like, okay, I'm going to cut out like all music. And after like a week, it was like I detoxed, and I didn't want to admit how much those lyrics were subconsciously getting in my brain, but they were, you know, because I was just going on a walk, not really thinking about it. And the more you listen to that, I mean, that's repetition. Your brain hears that and it does wire your brain. So after I kind of detoxed from that, I felt a million times better. And I just think how many people are getting that kind of repetition work, whether it's in music or it's their TikTok or their Instagram or their favorite TV show.